Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 10 of season 3 of The Legend of Korra called Long Live the Queen. And as we can see from this episode, that's quite the ironic title, but we'll get to that in a bit. Overall, this is a surprisingly dark episode of the show. Now, it's not that they haven't had death on Avatar before, but we've somebody flat out watching someone be murdered within the standards that is acceptable on Nickelodeon is still let's just say that I'm not the only person out there who's probably watching this and going, this is intended to basically be a kid show, right? But let's remember, we do live in a day and age where people have finally realized that some sophisticated storytelling and some darker elements in, well, I don't really like to call Korra children's entertainment. I prefer to think of it as all ages entertainment. Things like Harry Potter is a great example of it. Harry Potter is something that is generally for kids, but that people of all ages can enjoy. But a lot of really bad stuff happens. I mean, plenty of people die and get murdered and are horribly maimed in Harry Potter. A lot of bad stuff happens in Harry Potter. And here, I mean, in the previous series, I mean, we had, dealing with the after effects of genocide and imperialism and all this other really dark stuff. But nonetheless, watching Zahir use airbending to suffocate the Earth Queen, who was admittedly a pretty rotten person, but still, that's a human being dying in a very horrible and unpleasant way, and yikes! We got to remember Zahir is indeed a villain. But we'll talk about him and what's going on with him a bit more. I want to get right into things with the main characters, then we'll kind of go around and come back to Zahir and the Red Lotus. So, not a huge amount to say about what's going on with Mako and Bolin this episode. Just that we see that Bolin is still not quite there with the metal bending. And again, it just, I mean, this is obviously going to be a moment where he does it at the last minute when he absolutely has to. And really, again, it's just more of a confidence issue. Bolin's whole thing is he's basically told himself, I can't do this. So, of course, he fails. It's the big do or do not. There is no try. And that isn't, and I hate how people really misunderstand that quote from Star Wars, another fine example of all ages entertainment, by the way, although not quite as focused on children in general. But anyway, basically what Yoda was saying there is not that you go out there and you're not going to need multiple attempts to do something. All right, that's not what Yoda is saying when he says that at all. Yoda is basically, when he says that, Luke is telling Luke, don't buy into defeatism. I mean, watch that scene. Luke says, like, okay, I'll give it a try, but you hear in his voice that he doesn't think he can do it. And basically Yoda is saying, like, look, you've already made up your mind that you can't do it, so you're already gonna fail. Go into it thinking that you can, and it's not to even say if you go into thinking that you can do it that you'll succeed, because he may or may not. The point is to go in there with, I don't want to say an open mind, but actually an empty mind is a better way of putting it. When you try something you've never tried before, don't go in there saying, I can't do this, or that I can do this, because that leads to overconfidence. You have to go in there and you are just going to do it. Alright, so on the one side you have overconfidence, on the other side you had defeatism. And that's kind of what's going on with that quote. And but again, that's a little heavy to lay on people. But what Mako is trying to do is basically to, get Bolin to embrace confidence. And it's not a bad idea. Go in there and go out and think that I can do this, and you certainly do stand a better chance of succeeding than if you are not confident in yourself. But anyway, let's just say that if it had been Tenzin there instead of Mako, he probably would have given Bolin different advice for trying to get the trick to metal bending. But Bolin, I think, is one of those guys where confidence in himself is a really, really big thing. And that Bolin tends to, in a lot of situations, either be overly confident or not confident, overly confident in situations where he should be less confident, and less confident in situations where he should be reasonably confident. So that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, nothing really much else to say about that. Although you got to wonder why Mako didn't resort to firebending to get out of there sooner. Oh well. Anyway, so in terms of what's going on with Korra and Asami, now this I really liked this episode. We pop back to them as prisoners, and very quickly on, Korra says, "Well, I guess Mako and Bolin aren't going to be able to save us, so we'll have to take care. We'll have to get out of this ourselves." And then she and Asami proceed to do exactly that. And I really think that sends a really great messages to all the young girls out there in the audience. And I don't really want to harp on the whole, feminism and female role models and all that other stuff. That save that for the people who really enjoy talking about sociology and gender issues and all that other stuff on the internet. I am not one of those people. Okay, we occasionally take a little detour down that road around here, but what can I say? I'm too embittered from many, many years of horrible, horrible debates on that sort of thing on LiveJournal to really want to go down that road again. That, in my book, is pretty much masochism. But anyway, definitely really like this episode. It's a really great episode for Asami because it really shows just how resourceful she is, and that her technical knowledge and her business knowledge, her knowledge of Cabbage Corp, really does have a great place in Team Avatar. And honestly, I think this is definitely one of the strongest episodes for Asami, really just going out there and kicking butt and doing great. And I like how Korra also is, does some cool stuff with bending, but Korra also demonstrates her knowledge, like where she reasons with the captains, like, "Look, I'm the Avatar. You guys know you can't beat me." And she also kind of logically reasons with the captain as to why we need to work together, why we can't just sit around and wait for rescue, and it all works out. And Korra saves the day when they're attacked by the sand whale or whatever that was. And the captain and the crew and her all part on good terms. So it's shown that Korra has learned how to use her head to get out of situations, and has even some minor grasp of, well, I don't know exactly want to say politics, but at least group dynamics. Let's put it that way. Korra has learned how to reason her way out of situations. Something that Season 1 Korra would not really have been capable of. She'd have basically just probably picked a fight right then and there, and that would have gone pretty badly in terms of not being eaten by the monster at the end of the day. And it was definitely cool seeing Korra. I was like, as soon as I saw that dragon, I was like, "Oh man, we're gonna get to see Korra with Zuko." And I was a little disappointed that this wasn't portrayed as a bigger deal. Now, it's not really surprising that Zuko has met Korra before, and he even says that he met her once as a little girl. Again, a little surprising that he didn't take a little bit more of a hands-on thing, given how good of a friend he was to Avatar Aang, and how his own ancestor was Avatar Roku, and Fire Lord Sozin murdered him. Zuko's got a lot of baggage in terms of avatars, but then again, that might really be the reason why he stayed away as well. But anyway, I really do hope that we get to see some more of Korra and Zuko together, and just sort of see how they bounce off each other and what kind of relationship forms with them. I was also a little surprised that Korra's dad didn't seem to know who the Red Lotus were. I mean, this doesn't seem like a name they would have made up for themselves while they were in jail or anything like that. So that kind of seems to indicate that maybe he wasn't really kept fully in the loop in regards to that kidnapping attempt that they attempted on Korra back when she was 3. Or, 13 years ago or whatever. So there's a potential source of conflict there. with the other members of the White Lotus, probably Zuko, given that he's right there. And yeah, oh yeah, one thing I noticed was when they were out in the desert, they were talking, and one of the airship crew mentioned Fort Bosco. Now, if you remember, Bosco was the name of the Earth King's beloved pet bear. So that's a cute little nod to the previous series. And it's also, we should keep in mind that the Earth Queen really freaking hated that bear. And it was also nice that I believe if you paid attention, you could see that some of the people reacting to what the Red Lotus, or as I prefer to call them, the Frightful Four, pull off, were Mako and Bolin's Earth Kingdom family. Now, this episode takes a surprising road in really kind of taking some time to flesh out the other members of the Frightful Four. So, Gazan, he's the Earthbender dude. I liked him. Him and Bolin chatting, and Minghua, and that sort of them talking about like, what did you guys do in prison all that time? And I'm sure quite a lot of hay will be made of that whole, oh, you got 2 out of 3 right. I really do have no opinion about that sort of thing. I'm not really a shipping sort of person, but still, very amusing stuff. And I really like that Avatar does continue to show multiple sides to the adversaries that we're dealing with. They are really come across very nicely as fleshed out people, except for like Combustion Girl. She's been pretty one note, which is disappointing. But anyway, so Gazam, he goes out there and does some lava bending and does that really impressive destruction of the wall. I'm sure I probably wasn't the only person who saw that and thought about Attack on Titan. But do have to keep in mind that is not the main wall around Ba Sing Se. That's the one that divides the rich district from the poor district, basically. That's the one that he brings down. As good a vendor as Zahir is, Gazan is, I don't think he could destroy the big wall. I mean, not even that big-ass drill that Azula had back in the day could take that thing down. So let's see. Yeah, I think that kind of covers what I had to say about that. But anyway, so getting back to what's going on with the Frightful Four and the whole situation that happens after they assassinate the Earth Queen. And last time around we talked about how Zahir's thing is basically anarchy in terms of what it means as a political philosophy. And here we see, and we talked about the idea that anarchy and chaos are not the same thing. Well, we see that all hell is definitely breaking loose in Ba Sing Se. There's rioting, there's looting. And let's keep in mind, this is not what the goal for the anarchists is. I'm talking about anarchy in the genuine political definition, because there is a genuine political definition of anarchy. So all of that stuff is really a result of the Earth Queen being assassinated. That's nothing really political. That's just, hey, smashing and stealing time. But the thing is, and Zahir spells it out, that he is giving Ba Sing Se back to the people. And he's like saying, like, look, I'm not going to make any judgments about what it is you do with this freedom that I give you. I'm only here to tell you that I have taken freed you. And I've given this city to you to do with as your will. It's very no gods, no masters kind of thing. And yeah, things go kind of nutso. But this is what happens whenever there's a major political, as they flat out call it, revolution. And this sort of thing is basically almost inevitable. I mean, there are the occasional exception. If you're familiar with modern history, perhaps you've heard of the Velvet Revolution that happened in, I believe now it's the Czech Republic, where there was a genuine peaceful transfer of power following a revolution. But that's one of those great exceptions of history. For the most part, when stuff like this happens, yeah, there's some rioting, some looting, and eventually that subsides, and some new form of order arises to take its place. And this is just pretty much inevitable. But what Zahir's whole thing is basically he says people really haven't been given a choice. The Earth Queen doles out freedom like it's not something that the people don't have a right to. It's like something that they only have if she decides they get to have it. And by killing the queen and saying, okay, you guys make your own destiny, that's really what Zahir is after. That is sort of, well, it's a little weird on the whole political situation in terms of anarchy. But anyway, so the thing we just have to keep in mind is that giving people the choice to decide their own destiny is really what Zahir is going for here. He's not about really out there like going like, hey, go smash up that store, go burn down that house. That's not what Zahir is after. He just probably understands that this is a case of you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. So let's not make any mistake that Zahir just wants to is one of those guys like the Joker who just wants to watch the world burn. That's not what he's about at all. And yeah, I kind of think that covers everything that I had to say about this episode. And again, another really, really solid episode. Some funny moments, some dramatic moments, some dark moments. Good stuff. And that'll do it, guys. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. And until next time, take care and have a good one.